Our School District 112's expenses are simply outpacing our revenues. And if we keep going the way we are, we're going to be faced with a very poor situation where we have to make cuts that are going to hurt our children's education.
In 2012, 60 community members volunteered to study challenges related to the district's finances and facilities. The CFAC committee was formed to recommend a vision for the district that allows it to remain financially viable and to continue offering students a world-class education.
Over the course of 2 years, we spent hours and hours looking at what would be best for the district if we had the ideal opportunity to create the perfect school scenario.
It was very clear to me that this was a community that was passionate about what was happening in education.
Their 2-year study ended with a report to the community and a recommendation that the district hire an architectural firm to come up with options to reconfigure the district.
We wanted to maintain the same small target class sizes. We wanted to have the opportunity for all the buildings to have a full-day kindergarten down the road.
Over the summer, a small advisory group comprised of district staff and several CFAC members met with the architects.
Our role throughout the summer was to become a sounding board for the ideas that the architect was coming up with, and we spent a great deal of time, in fact, in this room, hundreds of hours, and many days looking at different options.
By and large, you have old buildings, and they were developed at different periods of time, serving different needs.
You have the buildings, you have the footprint of the buildings, you have the lots the buildings are on.
So there's no uniformity in the district, really, with respect to either building types, schools, or with respect to sites. It's one thing to have a very good set of guidelines. Applying them is an entirely different aspect.
Because it's so complicated and there's so many moving parts, as soon as you push on one part of it, all the other ones start to wiggle around too.
To gain a clear understanding of what could work, the architects used the CFAC guidelines to analyze every site for its potential to become an elementary school or a middle school in a new model.
And they had a nice grid, and you could kind of see immediately that some things just didn't make sense. Certain buildings, a lot of them, could never be a middle school. There just isn't enough land. Any configuration that kept Northwood as a middle school pretty much required demolishing Wayne Thomas.
When Northwood takes on Wayne Thomas's land to become the size it needs to be, we lost an elementary school in the north end of town. And this became challenging because that would only leave Oak Terrace, yet that was the most densely populated part of our community.
We're now incorporating all-day kindergarten, which we weren't before, so that necessarily makes the space needs increase at the elementary schools. The other is simply the fact that you're reducing the number of elementary schools, which means that you have to accommodate the same number of students in fewer schools.
And they started to do scenarios of specific combinations of 2 middle schools and either 4 or 6 elementary schools, and kind of one after another, and they're coming in at $250, $280, $300 million.
It was a major wake-up that almost anything that we looked at was going to be expensive.
I'm sitting there saying, well, this just isn't going to happen. You know, we're just having the wrong conversation because we don't have the means to do this. We realized that, you know, the elementary schools don't have to all be the same size. And if they're not all the same size, then we can do some things a little bit differently. They presented this middle school campus idea at the Red Oak Sherwood site.
So 2 middle schools on the same campus, while it met the parameters and provided for that approach, the 2 competing schools looking at each other could be a limitation in terms of services provided for kids.
Some of the district's educators really stepped forward in a very positive way and suggested the possibility of a 5-8 middle school campus instead of a 6-8 middle school campus.
We have an opportunity, if 2 middle schools are on one piece of property, really to do great by all kids in this district. And what that looked like, in my opinion, was a 5, 6, 7, 8 building model. I've seen it work. It's been successful in other areas.
The educators kind of say, wow, we could do some really cool stuff with this. We could bring the 5th graders up. And the architects say, yeah, and actually that makes our job even easier. The finance, everything works better if we move the 5th graders up. and we don't have to do as much work on the elementary schools.
That simple act reduced the space needs pressure on the elementary schools, which had the positive effect of also reducing the budget.
It kind of clicked. All of a sudden, I thought to myself, that makes a lot of sense.
The opportunities of a middle school campus as a former middle school teacher I thought were off the charts.
When we finished walking through the pros and cons of the single campus, we all came to consensus.
In my experience teaching at Indian Trail, 5th grade, they definitely were ready to kind of move up and have more opportunities for targeted and focused instructional options, such as a program like STEM.
Our students at the 5th grade level are capable and ready for new experiences. They're ready for advisory programs, they're ready to be on small groups of teams.
I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in helping people understand middle school is to help them understand the power of a team. So this idea that we have between 100 and 125 students that are together for all of their academic classes, and they have a core group of 5 teachers that stay with them for the entire day. And so, you know, every single person on that team really gets to know one another on an academic and an emotional level, and the teachers are so tuned into that child that there is a better sense of really understanding and knowing each and every child, regardless of the size of the school, because it becomes about the team.
The teachers could collaborate. There'd be opportunities for differentiation, for overlap, for flexibility, for mixed scheduling.
The collaboration time is really at the core of all things middle school.
This really could free up some really nice time for staff to be able to collaborate while meeting students' needs. We have great people in this town, and we want to be able to build strong relationships from north to south, from east to west. And we want to be able to put kids in an environment where they get to understand different walks of life.
All the kids are going to have the opportunity for the same opportunities and inclusivity. We live in a community that is rich in diversity, and I just thought, what an opportunity to embrace this diversity early in 5th grade, where the kids get to know kids from all over our community, and we can appreciate and extol our similarities as well as our differences. Kids benefit because they find out that the world is not just one way.
The idea that this project was going to be incredibly complex, it had certainly lived up to our expectations in that regard. And I think by the time we had gotten to that point in the process, it was obvious that while the 7-building model that had been proposed we could fit it within the district's funding capacity, it addressed a number of issues that we were trying to resolve. It also came with some problems that needed to be worked out in greater detail.
It is our professional duty to provide a recommendation to the Board of Education. We're looking at still answering questions about that middle school campus and developing that model. Simultaneously, we have opened a call for proposals from our community, and this will provide an opportunity for people in our community to provide their thoughts and ideas on possible reconfiguration for the school district. And we've also asked our architects to go back and look at our work, and is there anything else that they can look at, that they can come up with, that may be something that we haven't already looked at. Essentially, we're trying to look at it from every possible angle that there is to make sure that we come up with the very best option possible.
I think we had, a lot of smart people, very involved in the community, take a really hard look at this. And I think, a lot of people reached the conclusion, this one's not going to go away, it's going to get worse.
Even though these complex problems are more than what we envision them to be, the longer that I'm in the district, the more I've come to realize that we're going to get through this together.
I think the people in our community have long time been committed to quality education. And we're also used to coming together and tackling issues and problems.
With the expertise in the community and people working together, that we will figure this out and we will work through all of these obstacles together.